Good evening, everybody. Let me go ahead and and we're going to start our recording, and I'm going to get started since it is 7 o'clock. Let me go ahead and nope, we are recording. So I just want to make sure that we are okay. My name is Jackie. I'm the president of the Tri-Valley Democratic Club, and welcome Betty Yee tonight. We'll be getting started in a moment. I just have a couple opening statements here. First off, Prop 50, yay, Prop 50 passed by huge margins. I want to thank everybody that worked so hard in helping canvassing, um, standing on freeway overpasses with our big signs, calling folks. It was just an amazing turnout. And I am so proud of everybody that showed up in the Tri Valley to get out the vote for Prop 50. Alameda County actually noticed the Tri Valley because we had so many canvassers and there was so much work being done in the field, not only by our electeds going door to door in their own neighborhoods, but some young canvassers who hit upward of 800 homes. So I'm going to just call out a couple folks here. I don't know if they're in the room, but um, our top canvasser out of Pleasanton and Dublin was Harjap Singh. He's a young man who knocked on just about, I think, over 800 doors. So that was really amazing work being done there. Um, Also, Isabel Gomez, who was working in every city. I see her name in every city. And she's just been phenomenal, not only showing up to all the Yes on 50, but all the protests in Dublin and the ICE, all of the ICE events going on. So thank you to our member for being such a hard worker. Ward Kanowski, Marla Kirby, Teal, Ellen Meeks, Patricia Moore, Patricia Payne, Manav Patel, Walter Nissen, Bill Moran, Liz Schmidt was another one who was way up there in the number of doors knocked. Tosh Hepting, Helen Mashunga, Keith Hatchek, um, Kristen Eckful, and it goes on. We had several people that I don't recognize, but so many members out there working the doors. So thank you again for that. And is Richard on real quick?
Hey, Jackie.
Hi, Richard. I'm going to let you go ahead and talk about what happened last night and how people can still, if they didn't show up last night, they can still help our UDC. So why don't you tell them about last night?
Absolutely. Well, I am gonna hope I speak on behalf of everyone who showed up last night that we had a great time and we had fun. We had lots of food and drinks and good company. We had good music. And most importantly, we talked about what's going on in our communities here in the Tri Valley, in California, across the Bay Area, across the country. It's a lot to talk about. A lot is happening. And the UDC is a great way to get involved. Being here at this club is a great way to get involved. If you weren't able to make it yesterday, we missed you, but we are glad you are here. We're glad that you're doing the work with us. There's a lot to be proud of. As Jackie mentioned, election day across the country, Prop 50 here in our very own state. It's an exciting time to be a Democrat. It really is. It's an exciting time to get involved. And if you weren't able to make it last night, I will be remiss if I didn't mention that you can still donate and support the UDC effort and our club. And Jackie, I'm sure will drop in the link to donate if you are able to. If you're not, that's okay, of course. But if you are able to, please do donate. Please consider supporting the UDC. It does great work, not just for Alameda County, not just for the Tri Valley, but for Democrats everywhere. These are the resources that we need, especially going into 2026. It's a big year for us, going into 2026, making sure that we have all the lit, the office space, the resources, the volunteer and outreach efforts, and everything, all of that, to make sure that we're electing Democrats here in the Tri Valley and up and down the ballot across the state. So, anyways, that is a little recap from yesterday. Thank you so much, Jackie and Trish, in particular, for putting together such a great event. They were truly really, really good organizers. Um, and I'm sure Jackie will put that link in the chat. But without further ado, I guess we can get started here. We're joined tonight, as you all might imagine, by a very, very special guest. Betty Yee has been a public servant and an advocate for her entire career. She first began her life in public office when she was elected, as we all know, to be on the California Board of Equalization in 2006. She served 2 terms on the board, and then she was elected our wonderful state controller. And as California's chief fiscal officer, Betty supported investments in alternative clean energy and other great things that we here like in California. Betty is a San Francisco native. As we know, she lives in the Bay Area. She calls Bay Area her home. And in these parts, I don't know about other folks, but the people that I talk to know Betty as someone who's competent, who's incredibly accountable, who's incredibly principled. And she has a reputation here in California across our state. She knows the state in and out. She leads and speaks with conviction and with leadership. And now she's running, of course, to be our next governor in California so that we can all have a fighter that we can depend on in the governor's office. So without further ado, Betty, I will turn the floor over to you.
Great. Thank you, Richard. I'm taking you on the campaign trail for that intro everywhere I go. Thank you so much for the kind introduction, and thank you to Ellis for the invitation, and to Jackie. Thank you for your leadership of the club. Good evening, Democrats. I'm really happy to be here, and I am sorry I missed your event last night. I was coming back from Riverside after a gubernatorial forum, and that I will definitely make a donation. The work ahead is, as you said, Richard, very, very important. And congratulations to all of you for all of the great work on Prop 50. It was just nice to have such a decisive victory and to know that we were sending a really great message, across the country in terms of what California means when we stand up for our democracy, and certainly any attacks on our representation and voice in Washington. I'm really thrilled to be here. And first of all, thank you all of you for just the support you've given me over the years with each of the offices that I've held. And particularly in my role as controller, this was a time where I felt like we really did a lot of good things for California. We had healthy budgets. We were able to, pay the bills for California without doing any external borrowing. We found we had our independent audits just revealed a lot of dollars that we could recover that were subject to unlawful spending, but that happens with a big operation like state government. But also it was a time where I felt like we were making investments. And Richard, to your point, we were looking at how we invest in, just industries of the future, through a lot of our financing authorities. And today I look at, the state of California, and obviously we're a big target of this Trump administration. But the fight continues in terms of, just how do we create California that's a place where everyone can call home, and where they can thrive. I was on a strike line this morning with AFSCME 3299 at UCSF Mission Bay, and really this is a local of AFSCME that continues to be disrespected by a large healthcare system where many of you read in the news that UC settled with the nurses over the weekend, but a lot of the just other positions that really make our medical centers function, that really help patients be able to access services, and this is being taken for granted. And the stories why I joined the strike line is, one, just to show solidarity and to feel and just make a statement that as a public higher education institution here in California, and certainly as a public healthcare system, we need to do better in terms of the investment in our workers. But the stories you hear on the strike line really were emblematic of so many of the struggles of California Californians today. People holding down 4 jobs just to try to, make ends meet, sitting at that kitchen table every month, trying to decide what bills to pay. And these were jobs that started out to be jobs that promised, really a living wage where one job could be enough, and yet we're finding so many people falling behind. And this is really the reason that I jumped into this race for controller. As a daughter of immigrants, money was very tight growing up. Many of you know my story. I did the books for my family's laundry and dry cleaning business, and I felt like we had to, really work hard for everything. And, nothing came easy. But what I did learn, at an early age, and probably, kind of my toughness around just money and how we fight for that is, just not having a lot, but knowing that, nothing is given and that you do have to fight for everything. And particularly for families like mine who were immigrants, but really for a lot of families now in California. So, and we have a lot of forces that are working against us. This administration in Washington is really facilitating a lot of the corporate power that is taking over, frankly, very much influencing Washington, and is also taking over our economy here in California. And so, my vision for the state as governor is to look at how do we return California to a place where we can actually build and grow an economy that I refer to as regenerative rather than an extractive economy, where human talent and work is actually valued, and where it is not where people have power at the expense of others. And as we build this economy, there are a few people going to hopefully we'll win back the House and we can have a little bit more power. And there's some speculation that we might even make some inroads in the Senate this in the midterms because of just how many Americans are just feeling just the pressures of costs increases and how much behind they're falling, and so I'm hopeful that our work politically will continue to help us make progress there. But really here in California, one of the biggest ways to fight back against Trump is to really grow our economy and grow our economy in a way where it is about really nurturing our communities, nurturing our people, and having an economy that has industries that are responsible, that are good to our environment, and that also creates economic mobility for many of our young people who are feeling really very left behind already before they even get started because the numbers of entry-level jobs when they get out of college is much less. And if they're able to get their foot in the door to compete for an entry-level job, it's usually against those who have been displaced already by the economy. And so, as we're seeing all of this happening, um, I just see a lot of opportunities with respect to how we can use the challenges that are coming at us and that are already here to really be the antidote to how we look at a different kind of economy. And so, centering healthcare, I just look at and traveling the state with this grassroots campaign, it is affirmed for me that one of the things that I'd like to look at is, how do we develop a Marshall Plan that actually looks at building the healthcare workforce in California, where we can actually talk about delivering healthcare where it's not a one size fits all, but it really does speak to the unique needs that people have around the state, and certainly the unique challenges with respect to access and affordability. And I look at this really from the perspective, even as a API woman, that we've been talking about, just language access and healthcare for decades now. We've been talking about culturally competent care for many of our communities, and this is a way that we can actually build that if we look at how we stand up the healthcare workforce and actually have that workforce be in the communities that are being served. And so I'm very hopeful about being able to advance that conversation, particularly with the Medi-Cal cuts facing us, and looking at how we can just build some more resilience in our own economy relative to that. I'm also prioritizing just the whole issue of child care and family care, elder care, which we've known has been increasing as a cost pressure for families throughout the state. And one of the ways that we can actually look at being smarter about that is to look at how we professionalize these sectors and actually have them be ones that get incorporated into our health sector and education sectors of the economy. And so we're looking at those who are particularly at the low wage levels of care, how we uplift them so that they actually get a path to becoming professionals in their in their work and being a part of the larger sectors of healthcare and education. And then looking at education as well. We have got to look at our education system as being more responsive to the needs of our state, particularly as I think about all of the challenges that we have relative to not just healthcare, but also the one issue that I'm centering in everything we do, and that is the impacts of climate change, because it is already being felt across the state. And even with all the environmental rollbacks of the Trump administration, California can still lead as being the climate industrial leader of the country and of the world through climate technology and looking at how we can have manufacturing and also deployment of that technology right here in California through entrepreneurship and so many other opportunities in different parts of the state. So this is really about how we rebuild, how we strengthen communities. You know, as I think about the fight against this Trump administration, and hopefully he's not going to have this crazy idea of seeking a third term, but even when he is out of office, we're going to have a lot to contend with just the damage that's been done. And as I think about how we rebuild from that, it is going to have to be about just how we stand up an economy where people can not just survive, but thrive. That Prop 50 wasn't about just returning back to the normal that we knew before, but it's about how we take the next step and really move into the next level of how we're going to be able to strengthen our communities, rebuild communities, be sure that the state has an outsized role in terms of incentivizing business development, responsible business development, and also looking at how we deal with the affordability issues and housing. Being the center piece of this, but housing in a way where we can look at using our financing tools to try to sustain the affordability of what we build. But also, I do want to bring back redevelopment so that we have some financial incentives for how we build and what we build, and that some of the housing that we do need to build can be brought online much more quickly, whether it's through housing preservation, reuse, or adaptive reuse in our communities. There are always areas of every community that can look at improvements through those mechanisms. So as I think about all of this, I'm really thinking about the future. I think about our young people. I think about those who've been here for most of their lives and just, you know, what the quality of life is going to be going forward. And to me, it's also about how we continue this fight against an administration that's just about division and about looking at taking rights and protections away. And I really do believe that everything that we have to do has to be at the local community level, because that is where we need to build our strength. That's where we're going to continue to build our strength. It's what you all are talking about through the work that you do through UDC in terms of building our political power. And that all has to come from the community and locally. And when I travel the state, I have to tell you, I'm inspired because even in very under-resourced areas, that innovation is happening. Collaborations are happening. Partnerships are happening. People understand that if they can build strength locally, that is something that can be a shield against you know, what the federal government may be dishing out to us. So I'm excited about this campaign from the perspective that we have a lot to work with here in California. I know I get up every day and I'm very thankful that we're here in California. And as much as we're challenged, I also know that we have a lot of resources to work with. The most precious of which is our people. We can grow our economy and do business with almost any part of the world because we're that diverse. And even though I've been termed out as controller for since January 2023, I still get calls from companies in the EU, in Canada, in Mexico, who want to do business with California. And put the tariff issue aside, they want to do business with us because they know we have the talent, they know that we're innovative, and they also know that you know, we are a global economy that is going to be thoughtful about where we source materials, where we want to have partnerships with the EU. They're making great strides in alternative fuels that could actually help us with our energy transition. In Canada, they are manufacturing so we don't have to source from China more fire retardant building materials. And also from Mexico, they're looking at technologies that can help with hopefully dealing with our just water quality, and particularly inspired by the challenges we've had with our cross-border pollution in the Tijuana River Valley. So all of that to say that we have a lot to work with. This is a campaign that's going to be not just about fighting back at every turn and really joining with our like-minded governors across the country to be sure that we are pushing back as hard as we can on any rollbacks of protections and divisions in our communities. But this must be about building as well. This has to be about looking at a different kind of vision for our state and looking at an economy, as I said, that's a regenerative economy, and that is not one where we are going to be at the mercy of those who are in power that want to continue to extract. And I'll just mention this before I turn it over for questions, and that is the benefits and the risks of AI are real. I do believe there are benefits, but the risks are, and the deployment of AI is moving at such a great clip that we are not prepared as a state to deal with the consequences. We are going to see layoffs now in the thousands rather than the hundreds by companies because of AI. We're going to see potentially the rate at which new jobs are created, and people are ready to take on jobs that require AI competency, that the rate that new jobs are being created is slower than the rate at which jobs are being lost. We potentially are going to see people being unemployed for much longer. And so this really speaks to our education system, where I hope that we can be better prepared in terms of being sure that everyone, doesn't matter whether you're a young person, whether you're someone who's been here all your life, but just having a very foundational level of AI literacy so that we know how that's affecting our lives right now. But also looking at how we can get young people and learners into digital and AI education much sooner, as soon as we can in our schools. And so this is going to be a big piece of how we look at trying to stay caught up with the new technologies and innovation, but also looking at how we can harness the benefits at the same time while we understand what the risks are and how we mitigate those risks. And I do have to mention, I was very disappointed in the governor not supporting disclosure of water and energy consumption by our AI companies and the data centers that they rely on. This is something that is a huge issue. It's why you're seeing many of these companies locate facilities outside of California. But this is a really serious situation of where we are going to have to look at being sure that we understand what the cost of these industries are to each and every one of us as consumers, as ratepayers, and certainly as people who care a lot about our environment in California. So with that, I'm just going to say, thank you for the opportunity. I really wanted this to be more of an engagement. You're going to see me in your areas, but it's also going to be one where we are going to run a grassroots campaign. We believe that we have, this reminds me of my first campaign for state controller. We ran a grassroots campaign in that instance as well. It's a crowded field, open seat. But at the end of the day, look, the price of admission is that each of the candidates has to be a fighter for California. That's the price of admission to the race. But what we do in terms of, what we bring to the role of governor, I think is where you're going to see the difference. And I, for one, really want to see California continue to have a leadership role in terms of modeling what an economy looks like that can really have a place for everybody. So I think with that, I will stop and happy to answer questions.
Thanks, Betty. If folks have questions, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. I see Ellis's hand. Go ahead, Ellis.
Of course.
That was Sharon saying, of course. Thank you for coming, Betty.
Of course, Ellis. Thank you for the invitation.
One question that I find that candidates frequently don't answer.
Yes.
What is it in your background that caused you to be Betty Yee, the public servant, the person with the resume that we hear? Was it something that your parents taught you, your grandparents, or somebody? And also, what is it that keeps you positive? I meet so many people that are just politics. I don't want to hear it. I hear that from so many people, but
Yes.
you and many of the people, certainly in this club, are more positive. But what is it that keeps you going, keeps you positive after hearing the news on television,
Sure.
whatever it is tonight?
Sure. No. So let me just say, growing up as a daughter of immigrants, my parents took a lot of risks. They raised 6 kids. It was a time in California where you could do that. And as some of you know, my parents had a laundry and dry cleaning business when I was growing up. And money was tight. I did the books for my parents' business, and I saw just how much they did sacrifice, and sometimes we didn't have enough money coming in every week to, have all the food that we needed. And so I grew up with that. But why they took the risk of opening up a business was that they felt like there were supports in place should something happen where they couldn't be successful in their business. And I want to tell you this story because my mother's 102 years old today. She's still alive. And she reminds me about a couple things, but one of the stories she really has been recounting a lot lately is she's aging in the house where we all grew up. And when my parents bought that house, it was basically two flats that could be rental income, and then a storefront where they could have their laundry and dry cleaning business. And my father was always stressed about money, and my mother asked me, "Now, do you remember what your father said to me when I told him that I think we should invest and buy a house?" And he said, "I said I do. We were arguing about it all the time." He said to her, "Well, what if I can't make the mortgage one month? We'll lose everything." And my mother responded, and she said, "Do you remember my response?" I said, "Of course I do, because you're kind of like the risk taker in the family." And she said, um, "Well, I'll just go out and learn English and get a job." And she meant it. She could have gone to adult ed and learned English, and she probably could have gotten a job. And I just feel like those supports aren't there anymore. We've known, and one of the things that California, I think, used to do better and well, and certainly during the time of my parents, being in business, was that we anticipated when Californians would face economic vulnerabilities, and we had supports in place for people who would. And I feel like today we have not anticipated that enough, or maybe things are just moving much more quickly that we don't take a breath to really understand how we can be more supportive of people. But um, this is what's really motivated me. And so, and why, when money's tight, you always feel like you gotta, just work hard and fight for everything. And so that I always dreamed of just wanting more for my family, and that's what I feel for all Californians now who are struggling. And so that's really influenced my life a lot. And then what keeps me hopeful, Ellis, is the people of our great state. I mean, I travel this state extensively, and I have to tell you, particularly in areas where, I've been to the North State, I've been in the Inland Empire, the Imperial Valley, Central Valley, Eastern Sierras, and there are places I go to where you would just ask yourself, how do people wake up every day with any ounce of hope? And they do. And the grit and the courage and just what I see people, really do to fend for themselves and to provide for their families is nothing short of courageous. And when I see that, I just know that if we can continue to make investments to hopefully be able to take some of the burdens off of their experiences in daily life to relieve some of the cost pressures, there is just so much more that we can be doing. And so I am optimistic, and some of the communities, frankly, are doing that now. And then I will say that the one thing that always keeps me hopeful is that I always think it's a indication of how well a community or a society is doing in terms of how well their young people are doing. And there are a lot of young people that are very worried about the future here in California. But there is also a lot of investment in our young people as well. And one of the things that the state did several years ago was to realign juvenile justice programs from the state to the counties. And I have to tell you, it doesn't matter whether it's a red part of the state or a green blue part of the state, but county probation has really taken that responsibility on to where they are doing some remarkable things with our youthful offenders and really trying to reintegrate them into the communities in ways that I think we probably would not have been able to do as a state. But when I see that and the commitment to our young people in that regard, and then really having a broader commitment to our young people in these areas, that's what gives me hope.
Thank you, Betty, and thank you, Ellis. Manav, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you for coming on tonight.
Sure, Vana.
Well, I wanted to ask, just as a young person, and I see myself living in this state for as long as I can.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, like, I just graduated from college a couple of years ago, and I found it very hard to find a job out of college.
Yeah.
I'm a UC grad from Santa Cruz, and I struggled to get a job, and I had to end up moving back with my parents. So I guess I wanted to ask you, like, as governor, like, what could you do to help college grads and young people get jobs out of college, and what can you do to help us kind of progress our lives, help us get housing out of college, help us
Yeah.
basically get our lives started. If you can, yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for the question, and I think about this a lot. I'm going to start with the second question first because to me, unless you feel stable with housing, I think everything else just kind of feels, just brings a lot of brings raises anxiety. So with respect to housing, there are a couple things that I think about with respect to housing. One is I do think about our homelessness issue by and large as a result of a shortage of affordable housing. Obviously, the complexion of who's unhoused today is much more complicated, and but I do think about the models that have worked, and frankly, the old HUD model about looking at housing as a continuum actually has merit, but we have not had the data infrastructure to inform us about how we should continue to just be accountable with the successes of that kind of a model. And I'll give you an example. First of all, we should do everything to be sure that we are keeping people housed. I know that, and for me, I mean, just even some temporary cash assistance is much better than trying to provide services after the fact when people do become unhoused. And so I just want to kind of say that at the outset. I don't ever want our homeless population to be criminalized, but at the same time, I want to be sure that we have a response to just how we're going to be serving this population. So first, with the unhoused population, I think we have to just really understand who's unhoused. You're a student, graduate from UC Santa Cruz. We have a lot of students who are unhoused. We have working families who are unhoused. We have families with children who are unhoused, right? And so we have veterans who are unhoused. And so for me, the immediate thing we have to do is to understand who's unhoused, and to the extent that we can move them into intermittent supportive housing, we need to do that. We need to do that. And there are some models that are really working well, where they don't cost a lot to build these small units that just get people indoors so that we can actually get them services. And there's one in Alameda, there's one actually where I live now, and one in San Francisco that I've seen be built where former encampments were. So the people who are in encampments go into these units, they get services, and then they're placed into more permanent supportive housing. Um, and then from permanent supportive housing going into a more stable rental situation, and then and then from there, I would also say to home ownership. We can't. To me, there's still an aspiration that's possible, and I mention that because the continuum actually works when we hold each stage of the continuum accountable. The people who are actually involved in each of these areas, and it's not just housing professionals, it's not just developers, it's not just local governments, but it's also, our education system, it's our job training, systems, it's just our mental health services, and so all of these things are really about how we successfully serve people so that they can continue to move along the continuum. But in terms of what we can do relative to affordable housing, we definitely need to look, the cost of delays in getting things built is what's giving rise to the cost as well. I think there are ways to build where we can look at not having the expensive land costs, so that the land trust model seems to be working in some communities in California. Looking at again building on public lands so that we're not having the underlying cost of land as well. So just how do you kind of bring some of those costs down, and then looking at different models of home ownership so that we can look at things like, co-ops, and, just looking at, co-ownership, not, with unrelated people, parties. There's a lot that we can do, on that front. So I'm all in on all of those options. With respect to jobs, I think we have to really understand what this economy is going to look like going forward. And I will say that, It's not just jobs. I hope that we're really going to be looking at quality jobs and jobs that actually are going to be ones that pay a living wage and where you can have the protections of benefits. Um, the economy to me is going to be really focused on tech a lot. And so I don't know that I have the answer with respect to what those jobs are. I just know that a lot of jobs are going to get displaced, and we're already seeing it. I mean, in the Hollywood industry, I mean, the entertainment industry, we're seeing it in droves. We're seeing a lot of the in my wheelhouse as well. In the finance industry, we're going to see a lot of that as well. I think there are ways that we can work with companies to be sure that they are leaning in to hiring graduates and looking at partnerships with our universities before our students graduate so that they have an opportunity to really have a relationship with the companies that are going to be hiring for the future so that they know exactly the kind of training that needs to be taking place at your universities to be prepared for the jobs of the future. One of the models that I've seen that's seems to be working well is really is at the high school community college level where dual enrollment has really been a great model for how we can get our learners to be exposed to the jobs of the future. That's mostly in the trades and then some of our programs that require a certification, not a 4-year degree. But the same can be said about a 4-year degree. We need to have those relationships with these companies much earlier before you graduate.
Thank
Great.
you so much.
Thank you, Manav.
Thanks, Manav. Okay, I see Shirley, Marsal, Trish, Ron, you have a question in there, and then Betty does have a hard stop at 8. We're gonna try and be respectful of that. But Shirley, go ahead. You can come off mute.
Okay, thank you so much. Betty, you look just like my Filipino cousin. You could be her twin. And that, please know that's a compliment. She's an excellent.
Yeah, I'm happy that
But
I
I'm
could.
gonna ask a question along the same lines as housing as the previous speaker. And when I hear that our state and our country has a housing shortage, to me, I think there's a affordable housing shortage,
Yes.
affordability. So when I hear a candidate talk about affordability, I do question what do they really mean by affordable. Because in my few years here addressing housing, affordable housing that we see today being built is more market rate housing.
It is.
Really, okay? So I did hear you say redevelopment, okay? And cities don't build housing, developers do. And when I heard you say redevelopment, that's really encouraging for me. And a lot of the things you just said strikes a positive thing with me. So the redevelopment is so needed because it was taken away from us years ago and
Right.
never brought back.
Right.
And that is really needed to have subsidies that will help cities build and meet the arena numbers. A lot
Exactly.
of the numbers are atrocious.
Right.
So, cities are really being set up to fail to meet these things. So can you explain a little bit more in terms of whether or not you feel that redevelopment is really, really what we need to do to really meet the affordability housing situation?
Yeah, it's definitely an important tool, Shirley. I think I was the only statewide official that took on Governor Brown when he dissolved redevelopment agencies because of the housing set aside. So for those of you who don't know, redevelopment is the program that was funded by the property tax growth in jurisdictions that generated it, and it was intended to those funds were intended to be used to eliminate blight. And there was a 20% set aside of that funding for low and moderate income housing. And frankly, there were a lot of jurisdictions that never availed themselves of that low and moderate income housing fund. And so the legislature for a while had a use it or lose it provision. And then when we had a shortfall in the budget during Governor Brown's term, his second term, he decided to dissolve redevelopment agencies because all of that property tax growth could go to schools. It will be a fight with the schools, but I don't even want all of redevelopment. I just want enough for the housing piece of it. And and where I think it could be helpful is this. developers really have had a hard time penciling out, just projects. But part of what redevelopment does is that it gives us more options about where and how to build. And if it's about eliminating blight, you go to areas where, and we're seeing, I mean, we saw a lot of this actually for cities that actually were intentional about using redevelopment in the right way. And part of why it was dissolved too was because there were these bad actors that actually used the funds for nothing related to, kind of eliminating blight. And so it got kind of a bad rap. But all to say that, Shirley, I think I look at redevelopment as a financing tool, but it also can be a source of a permanent source of funding for affordable housing. We don't have a permanent source of funding for affordable housing at the state level. We have a bunch of patchwork, kind of financing programs that are run by different departments and agencies, all different criteria. I mean, I try to get them streamlined in a bill that I sponsored as controller, and people thought I was trying to do a power grab, but we were just trying to like cut time to break ground on these projects and have more of a sense of what we were getting, for the different financing tools that we were awarding. And so I hope to have that opportunity to kind of streamline that. And if we actually bring redevelopment back, that is exactly what local governments are looking for. I've heard from so many people that it was just such a different way of looking at housing when they had access to the redevelopment funds. And so this is something I'm going to fight for, and I know education will not like it. But frankly, I have to ask, like, where are educators living today? They have to be able to live near where hopefully where they're teaching, and so this is my wheelhouse is public finance, and I'm going to put it to work.
Make it happen. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shirley. Marisol?
Hi, Marisol.
Hi, Betty. It's great to see you here. Thank you for joining us
Of
tonight.
course.
I had, I truly believe your competitive edge in this race is your background as controller of California, especially at a time where we're facing $12 billion deficit minimum. And so to that effect, are there specific policies that you have devised that you think may help us close this gap and get into the positive, hopefully someday sooner than later?
Yeah. So, my hope, Marisol, is that we can, well, let me just talk about HR1 because the big ugly bill is really kind of what this administration is hoping will break us. The Medi-Cal cuts are real. And as I said, if we are able to take back the House and have a little bit more leverage, and I'm going to keep a hopeful thought about the Senate, just because I think other states are just fed up as well as we are here in California. If we can stave off the worst of HR1, I think we've got a shot. But if we can't, we are not going to be able to borrow our way out of this. We are going to have to talk about new revenue, but frankly, if we're going to talk about new revenue, we have to make the case for why we need it. We also have temporary tax increases that need to be extended before 2030 under, was it Prop 30 and then Prop 55? So that's also on our plate. But and we have to grow the economy. Part of why I'm so focused on growing the economy is that we need revenue to be generated, because if we go out to borrow, we have terms by which we have to, repay that borrowing. And so if we don't have a revenue stream, that is going to be something that the rating agencies, the bond rating agencies feel like, we can fulfill. They're not going to give us a good rating. But all to say, but for programs like Medi-Cal, you probably wouldn't do any kind of borrowing for that anyway. You would have to raise revenue because this is not, it's basically operating costs. And so we really need to raise revenue. One of the unions has put the initial salvo on to essentially tax the wealthy for a limited period of time, kind of a wealth tax, temporary wealth tax. And that's something to be considered. But I do also want to use this as an opportunity to be sure that we are running our government as efficiently as possible, that we have the infrastructure to be sure that all of the people who who are eligible and for Medi-Cal stay enrolled in the program. I hope that we have the tools to not have anybody fall through the cracks, because this is the Republican playbook. They want to cut people off the rolls because you got to, get your eligibility redetermination much more frequently. You got to verify your income. Now they've got a job requirement. And so all of this, is just really where I just think we've got to be at the ready to be sure that nobody falls through the cracks with respect to getting continue to get the health care that they need. So we are going to have to talk about new revenue, but I think there's a way to do it where we can be smart about how we look at other parts of the budget, where I hope as a global economy, this is where I believe in growing the economy, we can also attract private capital for a lot of things. I'm a big believer in the high-speed rail project, and we have got to start getting private capital for that project, just so we can, free up some of the dollars, certainly from the cap and trade program that can be used for other things that the general fund is supporting right now. So there's going to be a lot of that where we're just looking for alternative funding for everything. So that's where I would look first. But we've got to shore up our capacity to be able to generate revenue so that if we have to do any borrowing for other purposes, that we have the ability to pay back the debt.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcel. Trish?
Hi there. So good to see you.
You
Sorry
too.
you're not seeing me just because it's that kind of an evening. I want to follow up with some more affordable housing questions. In Livermore, we have a affordable housing project. The land was purchased way back in the day with redevelopment funds. And it still sits there. Eden Housing is supposed to have built it.
Yeah.
And you're familiar with this problem?
Describe it more, but I know Eden Housing. I think I may have heard
So
about this.
Eden Housing has been working on that for a while. We have somebody with more money than God, apparently, who keeps litigating against that. At this point, that project will cost $14 million more because it's been held up for somewhere between 8 to 10 years. Some of that's been CEQA, and I know that the legislature's worked on CEQA. My question is, what more can be done to stop these nuisance lawsuits? We had a council that was 5-0, bam, 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 trying to get this through,
Right.
and lawsuits just kept slowing it down. Help.
Yeah, no, this is the big issue. I think one of the things, as I think about a lot of the challenges to housing projects, is when I talk about housing, I actually think about how do we build economically sustainable communities so that it's not just kind of the focus on housing, but we're actually talking about like how do we have communities sustain for the long term. And this is a big piece of where and I've had these conversations with Governor Newsom, where I think the state's role in all this really has to be about how do we partner with local governments on financing infrastructure? How do we partner with local governments on providing, tax incentives for business development? Just ways that we can actually kind of have a more holistic conversation about what it is that we're trying to achieve rather than just the housing. And I think it actually changes the conversation, because then you've got, more interests that actually want to weigh in about, what they want to see in their communities, that we're actually creating opportunities for economic mobility right there where, our young people like Monthy don't have to leave to find it. And so, I think that's the kind of conversation that we need to have. And then, and it also, for me, I want to be actually collaborative with our local governments so that, and I know every jurisdiction has different needs and challenges. And so how can we just kind of be in a better place? These lawsuits are a problem. They definitely are a problem. But part of why I want to talk about just kind of broadening the conversation is because I don't think, as I have gone around the state, the thing that people really have anxiety about is not feeling tethered to the community in which they are in for the long term. How long can they stay there? How are they going to be sure that their kids can still afford to be there? And when I think about that and how long it takes for housing to be, just constructed, we've got to change this conversation to be something about much more than just about housing. So, and then the lawsuits, I'm not sure what we can do, how much more we can do at the state level. I mean, this is where, but I agree with you. This has been a huge cost, and it's why things aren't getting built. And it's actually really counterproductive in terms of, what we need to be doing relative to meeting, communities' needs. So I'm happy to continue to lean in on this, but this is a problem. But I also feel like we need to talk about this much more holistically.
Thanks.
Thanks, Trish. All right, we have two more questions and then we'll have to cut it off there. But Ron has a question in chat. Ron asks, the budget surplus has changed since you were controller. How will you approach the current budget situation as the incoming governor?
Well, first, I think we have to just be straight with Californians about the state of our budget situation, how we got into this situation, where our dollars are coming from, being very, just outwardly focused on really talking about, the narrative of California's fiscal financial condition. The reason I want to do that is because we are going to have to go back to the voters to say, look, we've got to get some temporary tax increases extended, and we may have to go to the voters for more. But for me, what's been missing is frankly transparency, accountability, and fairness. And look, I love all my elected officials who are Democrats in Sacramento, but I will tell you, I have been really astounded at how much they have been legislating without a regard to how things get implemented, changing course on policy before they are even given a chance. And when we talk about implementation, we talk about costs. But usually that comes after the fact. And so I just want to be straight with the voters, be straight with all of you. It's not to be, it's not about indicting anybody, but it is about being sure that we're making the case so that as our needs continue to rise, that we can also make the case for new revenue if we need to do so. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, I'm going to also, in part of growing this economy, one of the steps we need to take, and look, I'm a progressive Democrat. I have a great appreciation for regulations and how it protects, just so many of the things that we care about. But we have got to really look at a regulatory streamlining effort that has those in California who are doing business be able to stay here in California. And I'll just give you an example. There are companies in the Central Valley, and I've met with them. There are farmers. They're not the large corporate farmers, but there are farmers who are just trying to make a go of it here. And as they grow, they are subject to more overlapping regulations that have conflicting provisions, and they want to be the environmental stewards and but want to be the responsible, farmers of California. But they're just finding it very, very costly and have to hire consultants to be able to just make sense of the regulations. And so, and I know people in the various departments who actually have been trying to do this from a staff level, even when I was controller. But we've got to get a handle on that just so businesses know that, we want them to stay here and we want them to grow, but they also need to be just responsive to, the need for some of the regulations that we put in place in terms of, our environment and our quality, all those things. But we're going to hopefully help them navigate that a little bit better.
Thanks, Betty. Thanks, Ron. Our last question is going to come from Christy. Christy, go ahead.
Hi, Betty. Thanks
Hi,
for being
Christy.
with us tonight.
Sure.
I also grew up working in my family's small business, so I really can relate to that aspect of your
Yes.
story. My question is about if elected, you'll overlap with our president for 2 years.
Yes.
And, he's made no secret of his feelings about California. It's been interesting to see Governor Newsom's, how he handles that role and how that's evolved. How do you think you'll handle that aspect of the job, and what would you do the same or different from how Governor Newsom has handled it?
Well, no, thank you. And thanks for the question. Look, we have got to fight for everything that California is about. Anytime there is a rollback of protections and rights, anytime there is a threat or action to minimize our funding, anytime there is a attack on any of our communities, we're going to fight. I'm going to fight. This is not what California is about. And frankly, it's a bigger agenda, with the Trump administration about what they want this country to look like. And California is the antithesis of, what he would like to see this country be. And I'll dare say that, having an Asian woman governor is probably a nightmare for him. And I hope to actually be that nightmare and show that we can still lead in California and at the same time, just continue to kick ass when he's going to attack us. And this is where, we are at a point now where, and I particularly just want to give a shout out to what's been happening with our immigrant communities, because there is just such a chill. I was being on the strike line today and just hearing the senses of what's happening at UCSF Mission Bay, where you're not seeing necessarily the patients coming in because of just the fear of just being in public places, to even get health care. And things like that should not be what's happening. I'm going to be looking at strengthening our communities, and part of why I'm so focused on strengthening communities is because that's our secret sauce. We know how to do it politically as Democrats, but we have got to do this as a matter of course in terms of how we build California and our strength. And that if we're able to do that and continue to build our own resilience against this Trump administration, I think we'll be the better for it. But he is going to see major pushback anytime there's an attack. Anytime there's an attack, because as soon as we let him just kind of grab any inch of what he wants to do here in California, I feel like we've lost it. And that's why, all the things that all of us have been doing, the No King's Day, the protests, certainly Prop 50, the organizing that we're doing every single day leading up to the midterms, all of it is exactly for that. There's no way that we're going to kind of leave a crack for him to come in and continue to try to divide us. We have got to stand together. And I will be very, very vocal about this because, like I said, I've been fighting all my life for families, and just seeing so many struggling right now. All I have to do is just look around the state, and I'm motivated. I'm motivated.
Thank you. Well, here in Livermore, we have a community member who was detained and then deported when he went to attend a scheduled immigration meeting. So he's only one of many stories in
No,
the state,
exactly,
and
exactly.
we would like to see that kind of standing up to him.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing that I will say is one thing that I will be fighting for, and I've been speaking out a lot about this, and that is just continue how we can discontinue the ICE raids and the enhanced ICE enforcement, immigration enforcement, and also the detention facility expansion. I mean, this is a Congress that's decided that with our taxpayers' money, that $170 billion for enhanced ICE enforcement and $45 billion to expand detention facilities is a priority. Those aren't our priorities, and that's our money that could be going towards, looking at how we can restore, healthcare cuts, SNAP cuts, and so many of the needs that people have.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you both. And thank you, Betty, for being here. I know you have to go in 2 or 3 minutes. Do you have any concluding words for us before we wrap up?
Sure. No, thank you for the opportunity, Richard. And I hope to see all of you in person. And I really appreciate all the work that you do. The UDC is a really critical component of how we organize and win elections and stay informed and stay in community as Democrats. But I just wanted to thank you all, not just for the support you've given me in the past, but also for the work that I hope to continue to do. Look, this race is crowded. And Marisol, you're exactly right. Our internal polling tells us that people really want someone with the fiscal and financial background and a problem solver. We are polling well with certainly being the only API in the race now. We will get 9 or 10% of the vote off the top. I'm not taking it for granted. We're organizing those communities. We also have the older demographic of voters who have seen my name on the ballot a few times, and they like the fiscal and financial experience. But we also have young people that are coming to us, and we have given a space to young people, given them a platform to talk about their experiences in terms of what Manav talked about, trying to find a job, looking for the first time that they've tried to rent a place on their own, just, really telling us a lot about the hurdles that they're experiencing. And so we appreciate that. But also say that this is an election that is going to be won by, really a lot of hard work and and solutions. People want solutions. And so I'm really happy that we were able to just have an engagement about questions. You helped me begin to fine tune a lot of my thinking around these issues. So I really appreciate that because, and there's no on the job training with this one if I get elected. So we're getting to work from day one. And Manav, don't rule out that I want to bring young people into the administration because I think these lived experiences really help us inform policy as well. Okay. So thank you all very much. And I look forward to seeing you on the campaign trail and just everyone take good care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Betty Yee, for being here with us today. What an honor this is. Thank you, Betty. Have a great evening.
You too. Take care, everyone.
And I did go ahead and post Betty's website in the chat. If you want to get involved in her campaign or donate, there is the link. Let's see. Speaking of Dublin and ICE, there is an event tomorrow, Tuesday, November 18th at 6:30 p.m. And it's Dublin residents to urge City Council to reject the potential ICE detention expansion. So there is a rally outside of with the Civic Center, a vigil starting at 6:30. So I'll post the information in the chat. But if people are able to attend that tomorrow, come out and tell the city council to say no to ICE in Dublin. Let's see, I'm gonna just cover a couple business items with pre-endorsement, and then we'll go into the officer reports. For the pre-endorsement process, after all the counting was done and there was some partial, percentages that were allocated and then divvied up and they count all of your members for each assembly district. When all was said and done, we ended up with 3 seats that we can send to the pre-endorsement conference to vote in that process. For those that are not familiar with the pre-endorsement, chartered clubs and organizations have the right to represent at the first step in the California Democratic Party endorsement process. Now, it only kind of kicks in if there is contested races where you have 2 Democrats vying for the same seat. In the case where we have incumbents, incumbents usually are put automatically on consent. However, those members that are able to vote in that conference can request to have somebody pulled. So if you have enough folks in the pre-endorsement caucus that, let's say, they don't want the incumbent, or let's say we didn't want RBK for some reason, and people got pulled, they pulled her endorsement. It doesn't mean that she's pulled. It means that it's not an automatic on consent. So it still goes to the conference to work that out. So I'm not sure if we will actually have any contested seats out there. I'm not sure if but we do need to vote on and put forth our members in the event that we can go ahead and vote in this endorsement process. We do want those members lined up. So what I'd like to do is anybody that is interested in participating in that process, if you want to raise your virtual hand, we'll see how many folks from the club. You have to be a club member, and you had to have been a club member back in July when I submitted the roster. So for our club members that were members in July, is there anybody that would like to participate from Assembly District 16? And I see Ellis's hand. Thank you, Ellis. Anybody else that would like to participate in the pre-endorsement process? Manav, Richard?
Can I
Yeah, I'll
ask
raise
a
my hand.
question?
Hmm?
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yes,
Can we nominate people?
yes, you can.
Okay. I would like to nominate Jackie Taryn Wrinkle. I would also like to nominate Manav Patel, and I would also like to nominate Isabel Gomez.
Let's see, how would we, is Ron on, Mr. Parliamentarian? How do we handle this process? Is
I'll
Ron
back
on
that.
for this? Ellis, how would we normally handle this process in the past?
I think that the deal is that we take a vote on it, and now we've got 4 candidates for 3 seats. But what you have to hand in is an alternate also, in addition to the 3 seats. So if we take a vote, the 3 top vote getters will be the participants in the pre-primary endorsement caucus. And the 4th one will be an alternate. And in the last election, I believe this was all done by email. So there wasn't any need for live participation going in someplace. And
And I
just
believe
for
that's the way it's gonna be.
everybody's edification, what we're talking about is Rebecca Bauer-Cahan, Mark DeSaulnier, Eric Swalwell, Jerry McNerney, Tim Grayson, depending upon where you live. If you voted for them or could have voted for them in the last election, then you could vote for them in this pre-primary endorsement caucus.
Why don't I make this easy? Why don't I put myself down as the alternate and allow everybody that wanted to be on there? And I do agree with Richard for Isabel. Isabel would make phenomenal. She would do great there. So Richard, if it's okay, I don't mind being alternate and allowing the rest of your recommendations to move forward and with Ellis. Is there any concern with that?
Do we need to have a motion or something?
I would like to make an alternate motion. I'm gonna take my name out of the running and
Well, there was never a second for Richard, so.
right, because I wasn't sure how to proceed.
Oh, there wasn't a second for anybody. So why don't I make a motion that the 3 candidates for the seat and Jackie be accepted by unanimous consent if there are no objections. And
Richard, you want to do the second on that since?
Yeah, I'll second.
okay, so we have a motion and a second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Say nay. The ayes have it. Okay, so that is done. The deadline to submit this is December 3rd, so I will submit the names to the state party. Let's see, any kind of change.
Irene, who wait
Okay,
to.
you're unmuted, Sharon. And I'm looking at the pre-endorsement conference date is Saturday, January 17th. And like Ellis mentioned, in the last time they did things electronically, but that's the date to keep in mind. And now we'll go ahead on to officers' reports. We'll start with Ellis Goldberg with the political director report.
Okay, just a second, let me get myself on screen. Okay, political director's report. We are going into campaign season. Campaign season, of course, started the day after the last election. And in 2025, it was the season to protest and Indivisible is doing an excellent job of that, and we shouldn't stop doing that. And many of you spend Saturday afternoon on the corner in Dublin with us protesting. But going into the election year, campaign season starts. And to do this legitimately, we need a PAC, which is the aforementioned Tri-Valley United Democratic Campaign, referred to as TVUDC. You also need a Democratic club because we have the candidates. So what I'm asking the people on this call is to be recruiters for the club. And the argument is that this is a campaign year, and as you've just witnessed, we vet candidates. It's part of the job of a Democratic club to vet Democratic candidates so that when our neighbors ask us, what do you think of Betty Yee? You can honestly say, I spent the better part of an hour with Betty Yee, and I heard what she had to say, and this is what I think of her. And you'll be hearing from other candidates as we get closer to the election, as we get closer to the primary. And it'll also be important as to which candidates the club endorses, because that club endorsement can go a long way at this point in time before the state party makes its endorsements. And the importance of the state party endorsement is something called the door hanger. The door hanger will have, after the primary, will have all of the state candidates for the Democratic Party and the down ticket candidates. That is, people running for city councils and planning commissions and Congress and Assembly and the state Senate, although we don't have a state Senate position in our area. So what I'm asking is that you ask your friends and neighbors who are sick of the political situation and had it up to here that this is a vehicle for them to become involved. And of course, it's a vehicle for you to become involved. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is something that's brewing that's far bigger than an Epstein or even ICE. The United States has been killing people from Venezuela on boats out in the Caribbean. And Venezuela, according to reports, has armed 150,000 people and told them to be ready for guerrilla warfare. Trump could be getting us into another Vietnam in South America. And we don't even hear this very much on the news. But this could be considerably worse than the ICE raids and all of the craziness that he's been up to in the last year or so. So that's one of the things to look at. The last thing has to do with one of our local congressmen. It came out on the news last Friday that the Justice Department is looking at charging Eric Swalwell with fraud in making an application for a mortgage with Fannie Mae. And the report was that he had bought a house in Washington, D.C., and it said it was his primary residence. There's one big problem with that. He doesn't have a house in Washington, D.C. As many of you know, he lives in the Tri-Valley. He's a local guy, and he's neighbor to some of you. So when you hear about Eric Swalwell being charged by the Trump administration, to use the verb, it's a trumped up charge. That is my report.
Tell them that what we do on Saturday morning and where.
Well, my wife, I said this already, but it's not Saturday morning, it's Saturday at noon.
At 12
In
o'clock.
front of, 12 o'clock, in front of Coco's by the Safeway in Dublin. We got all four corners covered, and we meet
Yes.
people out there every Saturday.
We have
And
signs.
with signs, but frankly, the best part of it is getting to talk to other people about what's going on politically and having those political conversations. I was watching Nicole Wallace yesterday, and she had somebody on her, I don't know what you call it, it's called The Best People, and he said something that really rung home to me. He said, the largest industry in the United States is the healthcare industry. And the second largest is the technology industry. And the technology industry realizes that the more time we spend in front of the screen, the less time we're spending doing healthy stuff. And it really feeds into that healthcare industry. So what we should do is, and I should do it more too, get out and speak to people face to face or on the phone, but get away from the screen. And it's good for your mental health. And it's the positive thing that's come out of the Trump administration. It's brought out a lot of people who wouldn't have been out there, and you wouldn't have gotten to meet them and had the conversations I'm talking about.
And when we're on Saturday morning and we're have the signs up, people are honking at us that they agree with what we're saying and what we're doing.
Anyway, you have heard from the Goldbergs. Thank you very much. And we
Yes.
meet people out there every Saturday.
We have
And
signs.
with signs, but frankly, the best part of it is getting to talk to other people about what's going on politically and having those political conversations. I was watching Nicole Wallace yesterday, and she had somebody on her, I don't know what you call it, it's called The Best People, and he said something that really rung home to me. He said, the largest industry in the United States is the healthcare industry. And the second largest is the technology industry. And the technology industry realizes that the more time we spend in front of the screen, the less time we're spending doing healthy stuff. And it really feeds into that healthcare industry. So what we should do is, and I should do it more too, get out and speak to people face to face or on the phone, but get away from the screen. And it's good for your mental health. And it's the positive thing that's come out of the Trump administration. It's brought out a lot of people who wouldn't have been out there, and you wouldn't have gotten to meet them and had the conversations I'm talking about.
And when we're on Saturday morning and we're have the signs up, people are honking at us that they agree with what we're saying and what we're doing.
Anyway, you have heard from the Goldbergs. Thank you very much.
Is there anything else, Ellis, or can we move on to the treasurers?
No, Secretary, I don't remember what we did at our last meeting.
Jackie, sorry to interrupt. Beverly has
Oh,
her
I
hand up.
apologize, Bev. Go
Oh,
ahead.
it's okay. I just wanted to bring up some longer, bigger issues. And I don't know if it's anything that we can do on our level, but I'm concerned that these next elections will not be fair. I'm concerned that the voting will not be, what protections can we start to think about in our area to ensure that people can vote and that those votes are counted. That's one issue. And to me, the big issue also is we're talking about a lot of smaller issues, but that are important. But the big issue is our loss of democracy, because if we lose democracy, we'll never get rid of a Trump or the Trump administration. And I don't know how you can put that into specific actions for us to work on. But those are two things that I'm really worried about. And, they may not be today, but is there anything we can do within our area or can plan for in our area, in terms of voting and anything? So that's just longer term. But maybe we should start thinking about it now. Maybe it's ridiculous. So
No, I think, but it is a big question, and it probably take a lot of discussion that we don't have on tonight's call. But perhaps a working group could be set up to
sounds great.
brainstorm,
Yeah.
how do we move forward? What do we do next year? What are our top priorities? And so we'll put you on that list of people that want to work on that.
Yes, I'd like to really work on that.
But I think that's probably like a all-day brainstorming type thing. But let's think about that for our upcoming meeting. And Trish,
Thank
I
you.
know you had an announcement you needed to make before you left. Are you still on?
I am still on. Yes, I am.
Okay.
We have a forward from TVDEMS on the need for volunteers for the 2026 convention, the Slate Convention, I'm sorry, State Convention, I can read, February 20th to the 22nd, Moscone Center. There's a need for 300 volunteers to assist with registration and credentialing, greeting and directing guests, general event support, and more. And then there's, here's what you get. So you get to work along passionate Democrats from across California. Woohoo! Behind the scenes look at organizing events, free observer pass. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Jackie, do you want me to I can put the something in the chat, or do you want to just forward? I know you're on this. Do you want to just forward it?
Go ahead and put it in the chat if it's a link that you're.
Yeah, there's a link to the sign up. I will go ahead and copy that and paste it.
Okay. That sounds great.
So, and then I'm going to have to go in about just a couple minutes. So.
Thanks, Trish. And I'll probably volunteer. I
Yeah.
don't think I want to be a delegate and pay the fees right now, but maybe a free pass might be nice.
Yeah. All right. Everybody see it?
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Okay. Sorry, but I've got a hard stop. So I'm going to just take this moment and leave. Thank you
Trish.
all.
And I'll turn it back over to Ellis for the secretary. You didn't have anything else?
Sharon had something.
One of the things you can do is you can volunteer at the voting booths on election day. They do need volunteers, and you can watch people vote and make sure it's done right. I've done that many times.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see exactly how that process is. I think they may do electronic, but I don't know if there's still a need for volunteers the day of for people that cannot vote electronically. I'm sure there's still going to be some kind of in-person voting.
Yeah, it usually is.
Well, most of the watching was of the count. And my recollection was when Rebecca Bauer-Cahan was first elected, a lot of people in Contra Costa went down to the county clerk's office and watched the count for quite a bit of the time. But
and Marisol just noted also, if you speak a second language, consider serving at one of those poll sites. So they do need dual languages support. So thank you, Marisol. Are you done, Ellis? Can we move on to, oh, wait, that's your hand. Sorry, I'll lower your hand. Okay, Alan, our treasurer, is his video frozen?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi.
Okay, we didn't have a meeting last month, so I didn't do a financial statement. So this is a statement for the last 2 months. We had membership dues of $110. We had credit card fees for processing those of $3.37. We had a media bill through Square, whatever, for $20. I don't know what that was, but we had to pay the PO box every 6 months was 148, and we paid for the summer picnic because that was on us, on the club, of 726.28, and our total expenses were 897.65, giving us a loss for the month of 787.65. We started with 2161.80, and we ended with 1374.15. Now that 1374.15 compares to last year we had 1991.62. So we are behind. And now is the time that we really have to start getting dues in for 2026. And Jackie, we're going to send something, it's a special mailer on that, or
Yeah,
there's
actually, I
some.
want to, before we do that, Ellen, I'd like to go into Square and add a few more data fields so that we gather the members' addresses, especially for pre-endorsement time, because it saves me from having to look up all of their information in PDI.
Okay.
So if we can build up some of that when they sign up, we'll have all the information that we need. So if we could do that first before we start pushing a lot of people to sign up.
Do you just want me to email you the information to sign in?
I think if I'll get on the phone with you, I don't like
Oh,
email
okay, I understand.
passwords.
So just give me a call and I'll give you the information, because I did change the password, so it's
Okay, that's fine.
different.
That's great.
Okay.
It's a good job. So
Um,
we just want to add a couple more data fields, and then we'll send out a notice, and then dues will be, they're due by the end of January. So we still have
okay, we
time.
did have a
Nobody's
couple
late.
stragglers pay the end of like September, October, November. I'm going to count them as paid for 2026, and I will notify them that that's what I did. Usually when I've notified them before, they'll still pay again for 2026, so whatever. Any
Awesome.
questions?
I just have one comment regarding, I took a treasurer's training through the Alameda County Democratic Party, and there was a lot of discussion about clubs and when a club needs to have, set up a FPPC number and when we have to track our donations. And the rule of thumb is if we collectively throughout the year donate more than $2,000, so we donate 250 to this candidate, you end up with more than 2,000, then you really need to have that set up.
We've never come close to that.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
Not
Is it
even in the
something we need to
ballpark.
look at? Okay. I just don't want to be like, have the sheriffs come knocking on your or my door someday, calling us off for campaign violations.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up to the floor. Is any new business? And anyone?
Jackie, can you tell us, do you know of any status about the IBW being available for live meetings?
Yeah, it's still under construction. According to Greg, it may be like March timeframe. It's a ways out. So they are still working, and I know Sharon, we talked about, do we want to do a holiday party? I don't know if you want to get a group together to discuss that. We cannot use the IBEW. We really don't have the funds to rent a place, but we could do a pizza party or something at a pizza parlor, or we could maybe ask the Plasters Union if we could do something in their space. And I don't know if there's other ideas. I'd love to do something with San Ramon, do some kind of joint party at some point and
I
start
asked
meeting more of our Contra Costa folks.
I asked Ward about it, and he didn't know whether Indivisible was having a party. And Brody didn't know at that time either. They hadn't thought about it yet.
Everybody's been so busy with Prop 50, Christmas wasn't on our minds.
The San Ramon Club isn't going to have a party. We checked with Rick Adler.
Other comments about having a holiday party or any other new business? Anyone?
Maybe the candidates are going to have a holiday party.
There is a holiday party being planned by the Alameda County Democratic Party, and I will be sending it to our members. It is free, but it's like all the parties they have. It's in Oakland, so it's a drive for us from here. But that's another opportunity. We could just go to that party. It's a potluck. They're asking everybody to bring something.
Unless we just go to the picnic area around us and bring stuff.
Not in this weather.
Not today.
Not today.
Not today.
Jackie, I did want to point out Marisol, I think, had an update she wanted to share on San Ramon.
Yes, Marisol. Welcome. Unmute yourself. Let me pin you.
Thank you.
There you are.
Thank you. Well, first of all, it's great to see everybody. We have really great news from San Ramon, and I certainly want to make sure I put the announcement out that we finally, after 2 years of an effort that I initiated back in January 2024 to establish a climate action task force that would work on updating our climate action plan, as well as the second charge being chartering the language to establish a sustainability advisory committee, with the vote, the second by Vice Mayor Rose and the third vote coming from Councilmember Adler. We were able to finally make this happen. So I just really wanted to share that with this group because it was something that, I'll be honest with you, I had to fight. I had to fight in that, and on the council, on the dais, on the spot. A lot of moving parts in that moment, but we made it happen, and it went through 3-2. What that means now is that we're pretty soon going to be the city will be putting out an ask for people who live in San Ramon, who are preferably either in the energy sector, air board, or something related to climate issues and sustainability issues. If they're interested in being part of this permanent sustainability advisory committee, to please be on the lookout and sign up. We had a great turnout, the highest we ever had for the climate action task force. We had 22 applications for only 7 seats. And so it is competitive, but we want the best of the best. So we want you guys out there, apply and let your friends know if they live in San Ramon and they care about these issues. The other thing is that I just wanted to share some good news, of course, from San Ramon. We are the Bishop Branch right now in San Ramon is leading the Bay Area in return to work, not by force, but by will. It's a reflection of our city walk plan. Workers, people who work in Bishop Branch are voluntarily spending time up to 6 hours per day in Bishop Branch, which is a great thing for us because, as you may know, Measure N was a sales tax initiative, which means the more time they spend in Bishop Branch, the more they're spending and the more revenues that the city will bring in. And I also, another big announcement that just came out was we have our first woman chief of police in San Ramon. And it's just a great sight to see, great just experience to have and be part of this. And if you're not aware, another really couple of really big recognitions that the city just went through is we were ranked #1 for quality of life in the entire country the entire country. This was by the Social Progress Map, and that was something that was actually through data they collected from the actual community members, not just, city folks. So, it's really a testament to, honestly, it's the community that makes this city wonderful, but and also all of the volunteers that step into these roles, and of course our city staff and us as a council are kind of on the back end. At the end of the day, yes, we have to approve and rubber stamp things, but we can't do it without a great community that we have. So I appreciate all of our community members on that front. And as well as another recognition that we got was being 9th safest city in California, after the only other city that was safest was Danville. So Danville was in 2nd place. So those were the updates. I haven't given you guys an update in a while, and I just wanted to make sure you really you were aware of all the great things we're doing in the city. And if you know anybody, again, tell them that cares about environmental initiatives, please, please, please have them be on the lookout for an announcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Marisol. And we will definitely share that with our members when if you could send it to me, that would be awesome when the announcement comes out, and I'll make sure to post it everywhere.
I will do. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me.
And congratulations.
Thank you. We're really excited. It's teamwork for sure. Thank you.
I just have one other little update. SB 42, Senate Bill SB 42, the governor did sign that in October. So thank you for everybody that endorsed SB 42 and sent letters. So what that means is that is now going to be on the ballot next, I believe in November. So it will be on the ballot for voters to vote on. Again, that is the public financing fair elections, and it gives California voters the opportunity to decide on the November 2026 ballot whether to repeal the current statewide prohibition on public campaign funding. Currently, only charter cities may establish public financing programs. So thank you for all of your calls to help push that through. Very important. Any other updates, comments, new business? With that, I want to thank everybody for joining tonight. Lots of good work, lots of amazing updates, and look forward to hearing. Hopefully we'll get additional candidates for governor, including Congressman Swalwell, to our club to speak to you so we can hear from all candidates. So look for that in the future. And thank you again, and have a good evening. Stay safe out there.